Time to respect all of y'all. All right, good afternoon. This is the Subcommittee for Appropriations for Public Safety and Criminal Justice. Thank you for coming today. Oh, we've got Senator Lucas coming in. We've got Majority Leader Dugan and myself. We've got Senator Bruce Thompson on the phone. And I know a couple other folks are watching online as well today. I want to thank the Appropriations Chairman, Tillery, for his great work, and our Senate Budget Office, and specifically Mr. Andrew Zoll here next to me, who's been working with each one of you. And we're going to begin. We're going to go through. There's not a lot of changes in this version of the budget, which is expected. Would you pass that down to Senator Lucas, please? So we'll just we'll hit the highlights if that's okay. And we'll begin with my good friend, the Commissioner of Department of Corrections, Commissioner Ward. Thank you, and we'll begin by thanking you and all your team for the great work you do for keeping everything under control and keeping us safe from those who are disturbing us.
Much, Mr. Chair, and I just again want to start by beginning on page 4, section 19 of House Bill 80, okay? The first item is on page 4 in the bill is item 105.1. This is to recognize $1,365,900 that the department received in federal coronavirus relief funds to cover the cost of paying counties to house inmates during the pandemic. Next page 5 in the bill, item 107.1, and that is to transfer a total of $1,505,131 from state prison programs to cover the cost of the new residential substance abuse contract. And item 107.2, the second item is language concerning the opening of a new 50-bed dorm at Bacon PDC. This language is to move offenders and staff from other locations to support the operating expense of this dormitory. Item 107.3 is authorization to utilize existing funds for a 10% pay raise for everybody, for all the correction officers in this program. Next page, please, will be page 6 in the bill. And it'll be item 108.1. And again, this is authorization to utilize existing funds to support a 10% increase for the COs in this program. Okay. Next page would be page 7 in the House bill, item 109.1, and that's to transfer $3,872,236 from state prisons and offender management to the health care program to cover projected health care expenditures for fiscal year 21. Item 109.2, this is to recognize $1,032,829 that the department received in federal coronavirus relief funds to cover health care expenses related to the virus. Okay. Next page will be page 8 in the bill. That'll be item 110.1, transfer $861,914 from offender management to cover projected health care expenditures for FY21. Item 110.2 is authorization again to use existing funds to support a 10% pay raise for all those correction officers in that program. Okay. Next page, that'll be page 9 in the bill. That'll be item 112.1. And that's to transfer savings from implementation of a new timekeeping system to the health program for physical health contract expenses and to the detention centers program for a contract rate increase. And that is a $4,515,373. Item number 12.2, provide a one-time funding to replace 43 vehicles for inmate transportation and 50 vehicles for staff use in emergency response, and that's $3,320,000. Item 112.3, this language is concerning the opening of 4 new dorms at Metro Reentry Facility. These will house over 400 additional TC beds. This language is to move offenders and staff from other locations to support the operating expenses of these dorms. And then item 112.4, again, is the using existing funds for a 10% pay raise for all of the correction officers beginning April 1st in this program. Item 112.5, this is to recognize $78,593,152 that the department received in federal coronavirus relief funds to cover supplies and salary expenses related to the virus. Next page in the bill will be page 10, Transition Centers Program. That'll be item 113.1. This item is language concerning the opening of a new 100-bed dorm at Smith TC in Claxton. This language is to move offenders and staff from other locations to support the operating expenses of this dormitory. Item 13.2, again, is the authorization for a 10% increase for all the correction officers in this program. And sir, that concludes my little presentation, but I'm subject to any question that you might have, sir.
Thank you very much, Commissioner. I wanted to just point out to the committee members that we created a little summary sheet. I want to thank Gabe, who is interning with us here, just to take this so we don't always flip our sheets back and forth and we have a quick reference guide. So that might make it a little easier for you. First, I just want to say, Commissioner, again, thank you and commend you for us working to find the funds within the budget to accomplish the 10% increase in salaries. I know you have dealt with tremendous turnover and you're constantly staffing. Do you believe that with this 10% increase that we'll be able to stem that to a large degree, or do you think this is more of a down payment, if you will?
It'll be a great first shot in the arm, but again, as we raise our salaries, competitors are going to raise their salaries also. But right now, this is a great shot in the arm. I think it's going to stem the tide a little bit. And just from the governor's state of the state saying that they were going to get 10%, the accolation that's going and the ripple effects of the field is just unprecedented out there.
That's wonderful, and I've already been talking to Andrew here, and once we are done with all the budgeting for this year, we want to work with you and some of the other folks and do a full study of perhaps the Southeast and nationwide to see where we need to be in future years.
Okay, thank you.
All right, I've got a question here. It looks like Leader Dugan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is just ignorance on my part. We had a bill last year where somebody committed a crime while in prison. They didn't have to leave the facility, go to another facility, and come back while we're adjudicating. Is that made any difference? Yes.
I mean, as far as not still committing the crime, but as far as the transportation piece and the security risk of taking that offender outside of the wire, that has enabled the staff tremendously.
Okay. So hopefully then, in addition to the safety aspect of it, that you'll have a cost savings as well. And not on this, after we get past this point in the session, I would like to sit down with somebody in your office about the transition centers. I just want to learn more about it.
We'll get there. Okay.
Thank you.
Excellent. Any other questions from the committee members? Okay. Hearing none. Commissioner, thank you very much. We appreciate your time today. And please thank all of your team for their great work.
Thank you so much. Thank you all for your support. Hey, Tom.
All righty. Next up, the GBI. Director, how are you?
I'm fine, Mr. Chairman. How are you, sir?
I'm doing great. Goes without saying how much we appreciate the great work that you and your team do, and I know, especially over this last year, we made a challenging job even more challenging, so thank you for all you continue to do for us.
Well, thank you. It's very gracious, and on behalf of the men and women of the GBI, thank you for your support in this committee and this body, and it's been an interesting year, but I'm real proud of the work they've done. Thank you.
All right, why don't you jump right in? I know you brought Ms. Connie with you. We always appreciate seeing her as well.
Yes, thank you. Begins on page 16 of your tracking schedule at 206.1, which is an increased funding for the recruitment and retention of medical examiners. That's something that was graciously placed in the budget by the House. We very much appreciate that. I know some of you are aware of the continuing battle we have on hiring and keeping our medical examiners. It's a difficult circumstance. We're currently running 3 short. We have 1 offer outstanding. We're hoping the young lady will take it and will be with us by the summer. We're also recruiting another doctor from another state. I don't want to say it too loud. Somebody may hear me and try to get him, but we hope to have that individual on by the summer as well. This bump up or the placement of these funds by the House really will assist us in the recruiting of these MEs and the retaining of them once we get them. We're faced with a situation where there's about 550 certified board pathologists in the United States for 11 to 1,200 jobs. So we're always running behind the 8 ball. We're recruiting against places like New York and Dallas and LA and Houston. And so this will really, really assist us in that regard and help us to keep our 3 areas that we have medical examiners working going. I know particularly in Macon we've had a little bit of a difficulty. We have 2 part-timers there, but our goal is to be able to retain somebody full-time, place them there, and make sure that office stays open for our Middle and South Georgia coroners and citizens down there as well. The next item is 207.1. That was a large item in that it was the replacement of 70 vehicles for our investigative division. Those are just vehicles that just wear out after a period of time, and so we're replacing 70 vehicles for the investigative division, 6 bomb squad F-350 vehicles, and we're refurbishing the chassis of 6 crime scene trucks. We're not replacing the whole trucks. We're just basically refurbishing the chassis, which is the part that gets worn out so much on those large crime scene trucks going back and forth to crime scenes. And so that's the total amount of the $4.1 million in 207.1. 207.2 approves one-time funds to implement the second phase of the criminal statewide gang database. One of the goals that we had in coming in was to develop a piece of legislation that this body passed in 2010, establishing a statewide gang database, and we wanted to do that where it was free of charge to all local partners, where they could plug into the database and use it. For example, if you're in Muskogee County working a potential gang case and you have an individual's name that your investigator is working on, you can plug it into this database to see if somebody's working that same individual in Coweta County or Clark County or Lowndes County. And this is the second phase. The second phase is where the local partners get to implement or put in their information as well. So we expect those 17 or 18,000 names to grow exponentially in the event that is passed. And again, that's free of charge to any partners who join with us in this database. And it's something I think that is very useful and helpful to law enforcement around the state. And the last item at 207.3 is a reduction of funds for a position, a database administrator position. We did not hire that position on July 1. We were recruiting and waited till we filled the position on October 1, so that's the refunding of a portion of that salary for those months from July to October where that position was not filled. So that's our budget issues. I'm available for certainly any questions if any of the body has any.
Well, this is great, very succinct. Director, it seems like we're going to be in an ever-changing salary for our medical examiners. It seems like every couple of years they seem to become more challenging to get. As we look forward, is that something we're just going to need to always forecast and budget for, so long as there's going to be a shortage of those amount of people and they're going to be taken from us?
Well, I'll tell you, the reality is, again, if you plug in the 540, 550 board-certified pathologists I'm talking about in the entire country, United States, and you look at 11 to 1,200 jobs, the math just doesn't work. And so I'll give you an example. The city and county of St. Louis just literally doubled the salary of their medical examiner staff. And so we're constantly going up against those large areas. When my previous county, Cobb County, hired the last 2 medical examiners that they brought on. They came to the crime lab and got our folks that we had trained there, and they went up the road 25 miles, probably make 50 to 70,000 more a year for less work in one county. So to answer your question, Mr. Chairman, we're probably going to be dealing with it in the future. Yes, sir.
And is there anything we can do with perhaps our friends at Augusta University to develop a pipeline for folks in the future, knowing that we're going to need these folks as well as they're obviously going to be needed nationwide?
Yes, sir. We're working on that. The young lady that we have now is from that school, and she worked with us as an externship at the crime lab. We've developed a relationship with Emory. We brought Emory medical folks to the lab within the last couple of months to show them, tell them that, the young folks, the young doctors who are interested in this field, and there's not that many, that we would be available to offer any services. They could work there with our staff and learn the craft literally firsthand. We've also developing a relationship with Mercer Medical School. Dr. Eisenstadt, our chief ME, has met with them along with some tremendous help from Senator Tillery in that regard, and Chairman England in the House as well. And we also want to develop and going to work on a relationship with Morehouse School as well to try to get those young pathologists to us, particularly the ones who are already here in this state. But I know the young lady we're talking about, I know she has at least 2, maybe 3 other outstanding offers, for her services. And it's just one of those fields where if you have a child or a grandchild or a loved one or someone interested in medical school, that's a field where they literally can go wherever they want to go and work. It's that recruited that hard, and it's just not enough of them. So, but I think that I really believe in my heart that if we can get this salary bumped up to something, it doesn't have to be at the top, but something that's competitive. As I told the appropriations folks, we'll recruit the heck out of them. I mean, we'll get them up here. We'll show them the services we have, and the medical examiners have a great reputation in this state. They do tremendous work. As a former trial lawyer, cases often hinge on their testimony, and they have a great reputation over there. So it's a great place to work if we can just get them to a point where it's at least competitive with most of the folks that we're going up against.
That makes sense. Thank you. Are there questions from the committee members? All right, seeing none, thank you so much,
Mr.
Director.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
See you.
All right, next up, DJJ. Sorry. Commissioner, how are you?
Good morning, good afternoon, how are you?
Yeah, doing great. Good to see you. Thank you for the great work you're doing as well. Why don't you, if you could, jump right in and provide us an update on the changes.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
On tracking number 213.1, insecure commitments, our YDCs are utilizing existing funds to implement a 10% increase for juvenile correctional officers in secure facilities effective April 1st. It's in the governor's recommendation. House also supported it. And then also in 214.1, secure detention, RYDCs, it's the same thing, implement 10% increase for juvenile correctional officers effective April 1. It's also in the governor's recommendation. And just how we're going to get to that, it's going to freeze a total of 297 positions, vacant positions that we currently have to sustain that funding, and it'll be about $2.2 million.
And could you do me a favor and remind this committee what your turnover rate is?
97% this last fiscal year.
97% turnover rate.
In the JCO series, and overall turnover rate in the agency is 45%.
That is extraordinary. I know you spend a lot of time recruiting and training, and we lose some of those good folks to other positions. So hopefully we'll get to keep them where they're at. And again, I want to work with your team offline and with Andrew to look even past this budget cycle of how we're going to be able to retain some of those good folks. I know it's a lot for you guys to manage.
It is.
And you
I
do
appreciate
a great job.
Appreciate your support.
Questions from the committee members? All right, Senator Harper.
What does it cost you to train one corrections officer? You know?
Yeah. Hang on. It costs us an average of $1,000, $1,050 per officer to train.
Per officer?
Yes.
Does that include all the costs
That's-
you incur?
That's just for the for our JCO series, yes.
Okay.
And that includes lodging, meals, travel, and it's the basic 6-week academy. That's not including the FTO that we put them through once they get back to the facility, uniforms.
Can you get that? Can you?
Yes, sir.
Can you work through those figures? Because to me, part of training is the FTO provision too. I mean, you wouldn't have to incur that expense repeatedly if we were able to retain those officers. I guess my question would be more holistic in what is the holistic cost, maybe not just the academy, because I know sometimes I don't know if you give any stipend to your cadets that you may have before they go to a academy or what it may be, but more of the holistic approach of what is the agency totally invested in that officer, if that makes sense, from when you first get them recruited to when you put them out on the line on their own, if that makes sense.
Yes, sir.
If you could just kind of figure that up just for us because that kind of helps us argue the pay raise standpoint, because sometimes those costs offset themselves,
Yes.
if that makes sense. And it helps us make that argument to our colleagues. I fully support the pay raises the governor's put in the budget, both for DJJ and Department of Corrections. I think we need to do more. I know the chairman's already spoken to that when Commissioner Ward was in here about looking at that and studying this even further. We've been having this conversation for a couple of years, actually. We're finally actually taking some action on it. I realize that that's probably one of the areas that we have got to work on, especially when it comes to public safety. But for us, it just helps us make those arguments when we know the holistic cost from start to finished until that officer is on their own. I would think, I know you mentioned the $1,100 number. I would think it may be a little more than that if you add in that other provisions you were mentioning. So I know that might take a little work, but that's just good information for us to have
Absolutely.
going forward. So thank you, Commissioner.
Yeah,
We'll get
that's
that
an
to you.
excellent point. Thank you, Chairman Harper. Other questions to the committee? All right, seeing none, thank you so much.
right.
We appreciate it. Again,
Thank you.
thank all the men and women serving on your team and for your leadership.
Thank you. Thank
All
you
right,
all
have a
for
great
your
weekend.
support.
Okay, next up, Department of Public Safety, Colonel Wright. You out in the hall by chance? All right. I'm saving the best for last, Gordon. Don't worry, Chief. He's not. Colonel, thank you so much for coming today. Before you begin, I want to thank you again and your team for the ongoing and exceptional work you have done, not just for all of us here protecting the Capitol and the grounds, but all over the state of Georgia. We're so appreciative of your professionalism and your hard work, and certainly we're very excited to have you in your new position. You only came into a pandemic and a lot of public challenges, so hopefully this year will only get easier for you.
Yes, sir, we hope so.
All right,
Thank
why
you,
don't you
sir.
take us through your budget?
Yes, sir. Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman. It's an honor for us to be here with y'all this afternoon. Thank you very much. I'd like to direct your attention to the budget tracking sheet, line 39.4.1. The Department of Public Safety supports the governor's recommendation of the $12.3 million for 321 vehicles to replace a quarter of our fleet that we originally had asked for in the fiscal year 2022 as part of our bond request. I'd also ask you to look at 39.4.3. We understand the $4 million reduction in relation to the attrition and the delay of the trooper schools. We would ask that the Senate respectfully reconsider this budget reduction in amended year 21. According to our calculations, the $4 million reduction would create a deficit of approximately $62,000. As you know, recruiting is an ongoing concern for our agency. The trooper school is very challenging. Our experience has shown that many cadets fail during their first attempt at trooper school, but have subsequent successes. 17 of the cadets that have failed out of the current 110th trooper school have been retained by us in other areas of the agency. Retaining these cadets as employees allows us to recycle them through the next trooper school. This saves us money on recruiting and the rehiring process while filling vacancies that we currently need within our agency. It also helps us to better acclimate these employees to our agency. Because we've retained these cadets, we like to use a portion of that reduction to pay for those salaries. As we discussed in our budget hearing last week, retention of our employees is a growing concern. The $4 million reinstatement could also assist us immediately in implementing a pay incentive. This incentive would help us retain current members and recruit future employees. The re-implementation of the Sworn Master Trooper Officer Program would allow sworn members to achieve a 5% increase at 12 years and an additional 5% at 20 years of service. We currently have 101 senior trooper and master troopers and 101 senior troopers and 152 master trooper officers. The Senior Master Trooper Officer Program is based on tenure. Currently, members who don't promote within the competitive promotion process they achieve no more increases beyond 7.5 years of service. This would provide a non-competitive promotional pay increase for those members. Under the current affected staffing levels, this would be a physical impact of $756,000. Additionally, we'd like to fund the college incentive pay for education currently outlined in the official code of Georgia. It's been unsuccessfully funded in previous years. This would provide incentive pay for levels of academic achievement. Other agencies in Georgia already utilize this program to help recruit, retain, and encourage the furtherment of their education. We currently have 119 employees with associate degrees, 198 with bachelor degrees, and 49 with master's degrees. We hope to provide $3,000, $5,000, and $6,000 respectively for these degree achievements. Our communications personnel are also leaving our agency to go to local 911 centers once we have them trained. We like to provide them with a $1,000 incentive pay once they complete the mandated 911 training program. The current financial impact on that program would be approximately $2.9 million. That's including the communications personnel and our sworn members. The University System of Georgia currently offers their sworn law enforcement officers the ability to participate in the tuition assistance program. Under that TAP program, individuals are eligible for waived tuition for up to 9 semester credit hours. The public has set an expectation that they want professional, highly trained, and educated law enforcement officers. Pay incentives for education and participation in the TAP program will help the Department of Public Safety develop its personnel through higher education and better position itself to meet the community's needs. We would like to offer our employees the ability to participate in the TAP program. We have previously worked with the Office of Planning and Budget to try to facilitate that. We would also like to provide a salary increase for our secretaries based on tenure. The personnel currently have very little to no ability to receive salary increases. We have developed a plan to address this issue and provide a tenure-based pay structure. The financial impact would be approximately $291,000. The current total physical impact for all 3 of these retention and recruiting incentives with our current staffing levels would be approximately $3.9 million annually with salary and fringe. We have been discussing these options with OPB to determine if it's sustainable under our current budget. Mr. Chairman, I respectfully request the committee's favorable consideration for these initiatives. Members of the Department of Public Safety have worked tirelessly across the state. During a time when many employees have been teleworking, our officers were out patrolling, answering calls, delivering much-needed PPE, protecting our citizens and our state assets around the clock, 7 days a week. We brought additional resources to the city of Atlanta on numerous weekends to ensure our state has remained safe. I respectfully request your consideration in putting our employees at the forefront of the agency.
Well, Colonel, again, let me just thank you. The extraordinary work that each of your team members have done in all their positions has truly been reflective of the greatness that comes out of the state of Georgia. Isn't it true that our local police departments continue to give incremental raises as their officers are there year after year? And without making these changes, we're constantly going to be losing, very skilled and capable troopers to just a local police department, even though they've achieved something might even be higher under the state patrol.
Yes, sir, that's correct. Many agencies also, of course, they offer signing bonuses, which is something that we don't do, and we see that many other states around us do the same thing.
Isn't it also true that a lot of the local departments are also offering tuition assistance programs, and having this now fully funded will allow our troopers to know that we're investing in them, but also give them an opportunity to be able to move up and get promoted themselves?
It would, and it would also certainly help us with recruiting. I mean, it's a tremendous recruiting tool to be able to offer those incentives with people that would be coming on with education levels, and it would also encourage them and our current employees to continue their education.
And the final question is, and I've asked this before, but I want for our committee purposes to hear it again. isn't there a direct correlation to how many troopers you have out on the road at any time there is to accidents and deaths we have in the state of Georgia?
Yes, sir, it is.
It is, I know your contention and mine, and I know many others, to get you up to that at least 1,000-person trooper mark. We are behind there. Georgia has grown substantially, and you have my commitment to continue to do that, and I know our majority caucus backs our blue, so appreciate that. Do we have any questions from the committee members for Colonel Wright? Chairman.
I just echo your comments on the what you were mentioning on addressing that issue because I know that's an important in the program, the tuition assistance program that the Colonel was talking about. I think that is something we definitely should look at. So whatever I can do to help you, Mr. Chairman, please let me know. But appreciate what y'all do. I know the House did take out the $4 million decreasing and relating to trooper schools, and I know we want to try to work to do what we can to put that back in. Did they give you any explanation as to why they did that, or?
Well, they did. We sat down and Ms. Lori has talked with them. It looks like going back, starting with fiscal year 17 and going through fiscal year 21, our base budget for those trooper schools that we were running during that time was around $10.7 million.
I got you.
And it looks like what they done with fiscal year 21 is there was 53 vacant cadet positions that were essentially frozen. It cost us about $2.5 million. That left us a balance of $8.2 million. And so when you take off the $4 million that they've reduced it by, that leaves us $4.2 million. And then with the 109th Trooper School, we've spent right at $1 million, and then we've got $3.3 million that we need to spend for the remainder of fiscal year 21 to completely fund the 110th school. So it leaves us a budget deficit of just over $61,000.
I guess they were trying to run numbers to try to figure out how to shape it to where you've been, but that doesn't necessarily give you the flexibility you need to recruit and train going forward. Would that be a accurate assessment of maybe if we're able to maybe get this work with the chairman, see what we can do? But I was curious if you and Major Perry would get the same haircut as Major Lamb if we were able to make that happen.
I would not commit, Colonel. Great points, Chairman Harper. Thank you. Any other questions from the committee members for Colonel Wright? Thank you very much. Again, we sincerely appreciate the great work that all of you are doing. Please let us know how we can serve and support you.
Thank you. We appreciate your time today. Thank you.
Wonderful. I do want to let the committee know that we told the folks at Post they did not have to come today. Their change was very minor, and it's just because some of the new sheriff's school ended up being online versus in person after a COVID outbreak, but there's no real material changes. And of course, I saved the very best for last. Chief, we're going to bring up firefighter standards and training, and it'll always be Chief Henderson to me. Gordon, why don't you come on down and talk to us about some important things we need to do for standards training for our firefighters.
Mr. Chairman, committee members, appreciate y'all being here to listen to my spiel. And, we're fine with the budget. What we need is we've got two requests. One would be, we need to replace 2 vehicles that are high mileage, and we're actually spending more money on them than the car's worth. So these vehicles were, and I know I'm probably going to get this question, so I'll go ahead and answer it. These vehicles were actually in last year's budget, but we OPB sent a thing out that they wanted to delay everything until they find out what happened with what was going on with all the COVID stuff and all. Once it got to where we could buy the vehicles, we called Alan Vigil Ford, who has the state contract. The fleet manager there told us that We could order them, but we wouldn't get them because they didn't have any in stock, and they wasn't making any because they was making ventilators now. So we couldn't get the vehicle last year. So that's the reason that they're in there again this year. Okay. And probably the biggest thing that we're asking for, or the most important thing, is, and one thing that all of the stuff with the COVID and all the shutdowns and all has brought to light for us, especially, is that we need to do more online testing. We have we've been using a program called LXR. About 2 years ago, the online portion of that program went away. It's no longer supported by LXR. So in other words, we can't get the system fixed. Ever since then, we've been looking for some new programs. We've been looking for one that we could do just buy the program and let everything work. The only thing we can find is something that's got a per test cost to it. And we've got basically two choices. We can ask y'all for the money, which we're doing, or we can tell the fire service they're going to have to start paying for tests, and I don't think y'all want to hear that because they would not be happy because they've never had to. But it's we're looking at approximately $150,000 a year. And the ongoing stuff this year to get everything set up and finish this year's testing, would be asking for $50,000. And then from each year after that, approximately $150,000. Now, we'll tell you that we're looking for ways to reduce that cost. There's some things that we might be able to do. We're also looking at the possibility of trying to pull in some grant money from like FEMA or somewhere like that, but so far we hadn't had any luck with that. So, but if that does happen, then we'd of course use that money and then refund the state's money back to the state. But and hopefully we can reduce that cost some. I'm also talking to the performance testing people, the people that actually have the have the program, to see if we can get the per test cost reduced, and especially with the numbers of tests that we do, because we do anywhere from 12 to 15,000 tests a year. So we've got, and that covers, let's see, right now 6 state certifications and 29 national certifications. So it makes a big difference when we do the testing. So, we have exhausted everything we can find to find a test that doesn't cost anything. I will tell you that. But so far we hadn't been able to. So that's our request. And one thing I would like to say is that, and I'll speak for the fire service on this one, because the tax grant money that has been coming in, with what we've gotten so far this year, will put us up to about $2 million that we've put back out into the fire service in the state. And it's really helped a lot, especially a lot of the smaller departments that are struggling, and we really appreciate that. So.
Well, we appreciate your looking forward and doing more remote testing. I probably have a unique position here in the legislature, as I've actually taken a lot of those tests. And certainly to make them more accessible, what we've learned from the pandemic is we can't have just people sitting in front of something centralized anymore. So I think this is critically important that we do this for a lot of reasons, and perhaps we got an extra push with the pandemic to do this. And I'd love to have more people tested, because I think the more readily available we have it, that means more folks will be looking to further their certifications, which is obviously we want people to do to continue their training. So I certainly do appreciate this coming forward. I appreciate the members of your council, several of which you have contacted me as well, who I know, and I think this is a real smart use of state funds to have our folks better trained and certified. So, questions from the committee members? Well, you did a great job. No questions. Thank you.
Okay, Senator
right.
Dugan, after this, talk with you about what we talked about.
All right.
Okay.
Well, thank you again for everything you're doing. Keep everybody safe and trained up. And if there's no more business before this committee, we are hereby adjourned. Thank you. All right. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank y'all.